Clark Air Base is a Philippine Air Force base on Luzon Island in the Philippines, located 3 miles west of Angeles, about 40 miles northwest of Metro Manila. Clark Air Base was a United States military facility from 1903 to 1991. The base covered 14.3 square miles with a military reservation extending north. It covered another 230 square miles. The base was a stronghold of the combined Filipino and American forces during the end of World War II and a backbone of logistical support during the Vietnam War until 1975. Following the departure of American forces in 1991, the base eventually became the site of Clark International Airport, the Clark Freeport Zone and the Air Force City of the Philippine Air Force. In April 2016, an air contingent of U.S. A-10s and HH-60s was deployed from Korea and Okinawa to Clark. The air contingent was composed of 5 A-10C Thunderbolt IIs from the 51st Fighter Wing, Osan Air Base, South Korea, 3 HH-60G Pave Hawks from the 18th Wing, Kadena Rab, Japan, and approximately 200 personnel deployed from multiple Pacific Air Forces units. The primary mission of the contingent appears to be patrolling disputed South China Sea islands, to provide greater and more transparent air and maritime domain awareness to ensure safety for military and civilian activities in international waters and airspace. The air contingent builds upon previous deployments by U.S. Navy P-8 Poseidon aircraft to Clark. History. Clark Air Base was originally established as Fort Stotsenburg in Sepang, Bato, Angeles in 1903 under control of the U.S. Army. A portion of Fort Stotsenburg was officially set aside for the aviation section of the Signal Corps and named Clark Field in September 1919. Clark served as a landing field for medium bombers and accommodated half of the heavy bombers stationed in the Philippines during the 1930s. It was very large for a landing field of its day. In the late summer and fall of 1941, many aircraft were sent to Clark in anticipation of war with Imperial Japan, but most were destroyed by an air raid 9 hours after the Pearl Harbor attack. The base was overrun by Japanese forces in early January 1942. The base then became a major center for staging Japanese air operations. Japanese aircraft flying out of Clark participated in the Battle of Leyte Gulf, which is considered to be the largest naval battle of the Second World War. During the war, the Allied prisoners of the Bataan Death March passed by the main gate of Clark Air Base as the soldiers followed the direction of the railway tracks north, towards Camp O'Donnell. Clark Air Base was recaptured by Americans in January 1945. After 3 months of fierce fighting in the Philippines, Clark grew into a major American air base during the Cold War, serving as an important logistics hub during the Vietnam War. The base was later closed in the early 1990s due to the refusal by the Philippine government to renew the lease on the base, after extensive damage from the Mount Pinatubo eruption in 1991. The Philippine government attempted to reopen base lease talks, but terms could not be reached and the lease was not extended. In November 1991, the United States Air Force lowered the Stars and Stripes and transferred Clark Air Base to the Philippine government. With the United States military's withdrawal from Clark, the base was systematically looted and was left abandoned for several years. It finally became the Clark Freeport Zone, the site of Clark International Airport, and parts of it are still owned by the Philippine Air Force, retaining the same name, Clark Air Base. In June 2012, the Philippine government, under pressure from Chinese claims to the seas, agreed to the return of American forces to Clark. Military units during much of the Cold War, Clark Air Base's activity largely revolved around the 405th Fighter Wing, which renumbered as the 3rd Tactical Fighter Wing in September 1974, and its fleet of F-4 Phantom II fighter jets. It also hosted an interceptor squadron and a flight school, all of which flew a variety of other combat aircraft. Transient aircraft of many types, especially cargo jets, were common. Fighter planes regularly visited to participate in aerial warfare exercises at Crow Valley, about 30 miles to the northwest. In November 1973, headquarters for the 374th Tactical Airlift Wing was transferred to Clark Air Base. With this move came 2 squadrons of C-130E transport aircraft, the 21st Tactical Airlift Squadron and the 776th Tactical Airlift Squadron. Clark was served regularly by cargo and passenger flights to and from Anderson AFB, Guam, Kadena Rab, Japan, Diego Garcia, Jakarta, Indonesia, Bangkok and Ubon, Thailand, and Saigon, Vietnam. During the 1970s, passengers arrived via Trans-International Douglas DC-8 and Braniff International DC-8S flights from Traverse AFB, California. By 1980, the base had grown to such an extent that weekly Flying Tigers Boeing 747 service to St. Louis had begun. The 747 service was taken over by Tower Air sometime in the late 1980s and was augmented with a weekly Hawaiian Airlines L1011, a Douglas DC-8 to Guam, Honolulu, Los Angeles. Culture. Clark Air Base was arguably the most urbanized military facility in history and was the largest American base overseas. At its peak around 1990, it had a permanent population of 15,000. It had a base exchange, a large commissary, a small shopping arcade, a branch department store, cafeterias, teen centers, a hotel, miniature golf, riding stables, zoo, and other concessions. Recreation. Angeles City bars were legendary, particularly around the red light district on Fields Avenue. As a result, Clark's servicemen's clubs were under considerable pressure to serve its members with wholesome entertainment. All 3 were large-scale operations: the Officers Club near the parade ground, the Top Hat Club for NCOs near Lily Hill, and the Coconut Grove Airmen's Club with indoor palm trees. The NCO Club was a very extensive operation and operated an upscale dining room, an in-house thrift shop, and a calendar of daily activities. It regularly brought major bands and artists from the United States to perform. At least 100 sponsored clubs and organizations were active on the base, including the Knights of Columbus, a Latino-American club, and martial arts dojos. 2 major movie theaters operated daily: the Bobbitt Theater, which played first-run films, and the Kelly Theater, which showed older releases. By 1988, the Kelly no longer showed films at all but was used for commanders' calls and large squadron-sized meetings. In the late 1960s and early 1970s, movies were also shown at the Bamboo Bowl. The Bamboo Bowl, later renamed Challenger Field, was largely used for high school football games as the school did not have its own athletic field. In addition to high school football games, it also hosted recreational league football games for ages 8 to 18. The high school football teams were included as part of the recreational league. The base Sol High School, Wagner High, had multiple football teams. It was also used for the base's 11-man tackle football league, which not only included teams from Clark but from Subic Naval Base as well. To keep the residents entertained at home, Clark had an active broadcast center called FEN, or Far East Network Philippines, a division of American Forces Network, a television station broadcast on Channel 8, then Channel 17 after 1981. It showed about 20 hours per day of syndicated programs from the Big Three networks in the United States, with local news and talk programs. The content was locally syndicated until 1983, when it began airing live programming by satellite from Los Angeles. Then had two 24-hour radio stations, an AM station which broadcast news and popular music, and stereo FM which was dedicated to easy listening and classical music. Local Filipino TV also aired newer American shows than FEN did. Unlike the local TV stations in Europe, they were broadcast in the same format as American TV and not dubbed in Tagalog, the local language. Two major annual events at Clark were the annual Chili Cook-Off, held near the Silver Wing Recreation Center around September, and the Happening on the Green. The Hog was a major carnival held on a designated weekend in February which attracted thousands of residents. Amusements and rides were built and operated not only by Filipino entertainment contractors but also by individual Air Force units seeking to boost unit morale, showcasing the talents and to raise funds. Because of the warm climate and the large number of units, slow-pitch softball tournaments were held quarterly. There were at least 2 gymnasiums, 3 walking, running tracks and 7 softball fields on base. Education. The Department of Defense Dependence Schools operated 6 schools in Clark, serving children from kindergarten to 12th grade. Elementary schools: MacArthur Elementary School, VI, Grissom Elementary School, and Wordsmith Elementary School. The latter two were located in the Hill housing area. Middle schools: Lily Hill Middle School and Wagner Middle School. The latter primarily served the Hill housing area and officer dependents. High School: Wagner High School, otherwise known as Wordsmith Memorial High School in the 1960s and Clark Dependence School in the 1950s. Additionally, Clark was also home to several community colleges, namely the Pacific Far East campus of Central Texas College. Classes were typically held in the evenings at Wagner High School. Higher commands: Clark Air Base was assigned to the following major commands: War Department 1903, Philippine Department 1917, the Adjutant General of the Army, Department of the Philippines 1919, Air Forces, United States Army Forces in the Far East, the 4th of August 1941. Philippines Department Air Force, the 20th of September 1941. Redesignated Far East Air Force, the 20th of December 1994, occupied by the Imperial Japanese Army between the 20th of December 1941 and the 10th of February 1945. 6th United States Army, the 16th of February 1945. 8th United States Army, the 15th of May 1945. Far East Air Force, June 1945. Redesignated Pacific Air Forces, the 1st of July 1957 to 16 December 1991. Climate: the base experiences 2 distinct seasons, a dry season from November through April, with a wet season from May through October. From 1953 to 1991, the mean daily low was 73.6 degrees Fahrenheit and the mean daily high was 88.1 degrees Fahrenheit, with April being warmest and January coolest. The average annual rainfall was 78.39 inches.